Please be aware, in this podcast series we talk about all areas of safeguarding, which some people may find upsetting. So please make sure you're okay listening to today's topic. Be mindful of those around you, such as children, that you might not want to listen in. Hi, I'm SSS Safeguarding Director Sam Preston.
And I'm former head teacher and content author Sarah Spinks.
Hi, and welcome back to Safeguarding Conversations. Thanks for joining us for the second episode in our series on the tragic case of Child Zeta. Today, we're diving into one of the most urgent learning points from the review, knife crime, and more specifically, why we need to shift focus from the criminal issues to start approaching it as a safeguarding one.
I think let's be clear. Knife crime isn't a new phenomenon, but the scales we're dealing with now, it's alarming. So between 2018 and 2022, more than 568 young people aged 16 to 24 were violently killed, mostly through stabbing. And a huge proportion of serious harm linked to exploitation, 81%, involved knives.
Yes. It's really stark, isn't it? This is a national crisis. But here's the thing. When we talk about knife crime, especially in the media, there's often this portrayal of the young person carrying the knife as inherently dangerous, even criminal. And the focus on that narrative is so damaging.
Yeah, because for a lot of these young people, including Zeta, carrying that knife isn't about wanting to hurt anyone. It's about fear. It's about protection. And it's a response to real threats that feel very close and very personal.
Yeah, and in Zeta's case, that fear wasn't hypothetical. He was stabbed in November 2022, likely as a warning, from his exploiters. He didn't tell the police who did it. His family were receiving threats. He knew exactly how real the danger was.
I think, he was living in survival mode, So in that context, of course, to him carrying a knife seemed sensible. He didn't feel protected by the systems that were supposed to safeguard him. He didn't trust they could keep him safe from those people who were exploiting him.
And what's really concerning, I think, is that although agencies knew he was carrying a knife as early as March 2022, no one seems to have sat down and considered that the most important question: why? Why?
Absolutely, Sam. There was no structured exploration of his reasons.
Yeah.
No trauma-informed conversations about what made him feel unsafe. No plan that tried to, replace the knife with something else, like safety planning or mentoring or consistent adult relationships.
And beyond the individual case, there were missed opportunities at the local level too. Brighton and Hove ran a youth survey of over 13,000 young people, but they didn't ask a single question about knife carrying. And that's a serious data gap.
And if we're not even asking the questions, how can we even begin to understand what's driving this behaviour in our local communities?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the clearest learning points from Zeta's case is this, I think. If a child is known to be carrying a knife, it must be named explicitly in all safeguarding assessments. But that's only one step.
Exactly. Step 2 is understanding why.
Yeah.
Not just recording that a knife is present, but developing a plan that speaks to the reasons behind it. What's the fear? What's the trigger? What's missing from their sense of safety?
And then step 3, offering alternatives. And that might be emotional support and protection, community safety mapping, trusted adults, as you said, Sarah, or access to activities that provide structure and a sense of belonging. But without those steps, you're just advocating taking away the knife and you're leaving the fear behind.
So I think, educational settings are absolutely crucial here. Schools, colleges, PRUs, They're where children spend most of their time. If we want to prevent knife carrying, we need to make sure those places feel safe, are supportive, and are proactive.
Yeah, and that means moving away from one-off assemblies and toward embedded, ongoing conversations about safety, fear, relationships, and trust. Young people need adults who aren't just delivering information. They need adults who listen and are skilled to provide support and, where needed, that direction.
Yeah. I mean, Zeta's story reminds us that safeguarding isn't about ticking boxes.
Yeah.
It's about understanding a child's lived experience. For him, the knife was never the root issue. It was a symptom of feeling trapped, hunted, and alone.
And I think this episode really highlights the importance of a trauma informed lens. It's not enough to know what a child's doing. We have to understand why they are doing it and understand what they are going through.
And I think next time, Sam, we'll be widening the lens. We'll look at how the system as a whole responded to Zeta, what happened in court, what worked, and what didn't in its out of area placement, and whether the recommendations from this review offer any real hope for change.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, and I hope you'll join us for episode 3.